The morning of the Harwell County rally came in clear and warm. The kind of morning that made long riders feel the road had been saving itself for them. By 8 o'clock, the fairgrounds entrance on County Road 9 was already humming, bikes pulling in 2 and 3 at a time, the low rumble of engines carrying across the open field, the smell of exhaust and coffee and cut grass mixing in the air. Gwen Ashby had been coming to this rally for 19 years, and she knew its rhythms the way she knew her own heartbeat. She pulled her bike into the queue behind a man on a road-worn Hargrove touring bike. Dark green, original paint, the kind of machine that had not been restored because it did not need to be. It had simply been cared for. The man riding it sat straight-backed despite his years, a worn leather vest over a pressed white shirt, a charter patch on the left breast that was older than half the riders in line. Gwen did not know him. She would wish later that she had introduced herself before any of what followed. The gate coordinator that year was a man named Dylan Price. He was new to the role, brought in by the rally's events committee to manage credentials and flow, and he stood at the entry kiosk with the particular confidence of someone who had been given a clipboard and a radio and had decided these things made him the last word. When the man on the Hargrove pulled up to the window and said his name, Marcus Elland, founding charter, number 1, Price looked at him the way certain people look at a card they have already decided is wrong before they read it. I need a current rally pass, Price said, or a registered member credential for this year. That patch is decorative if it's not in the system. Price reached into the interior pocket of his vest and produced a laminated card. It was old. The laminate had yellowed at the corners, but the print was clear: Nomad Riders Mac, Harwell Chapter, founding charter member, number row 1. He laid it on the counter, without a word. Price glanced at it. This looks like something from the 80s. We're not accepting outdated paperwork at the gate. You'll want to check in at the spectator lot and speak to someone inside about updating your credentials. Behind Marcus, 2 white riders on matching cruisers were waved through with nothing more than a nod at their current year passes. Gwen watched them go. She watched Marcus watch them go, his hands flat on the counter, his expression unchanged. Can you tell me? He said. His voice was the kind of low and level that made a space go quiet around it. Where in the Nomad Riders bylaws a founding charter card has an expiration date? Price clicked his pen. The bylaws aren't my department. Current credentials are. I see. Marcus did not raise his voice. He did not step back from the counter. He reached into the same interior pocket and produced a second document. This one folded along old creases, printed on paper that had gone soft with handling. He unfolded it carefully and laid it beside the charter card. It was a deed of incorporation. Harwell Chapter, Nomad Riders Motorcycle Club, dated 1982. At the bottom, in ink that had faded to the color of old wine, was a list of 7 founding signatures. The first one read, Marcus T. Elland. That's the organization's founding document, Marcus said. My signature is on the first line. I would be glad to wait here while someone with authority over the bylaws comes to the gate. Price looked at the document. He looked at Marcus. Something moved across his face. Not recognition, not remorse. The flicker of a man who suspects he may have stepped somewhere unstable and is deciding whether to admit it or press harder. He pressed harder. Sir, I can't verify handwritten documents at the gate. If you'll proceed to the spectator lot. I'll wait here, Marcus said. Simply, finally. The way a man says something he means to the bottom. Gwen had been sitting on her idling bike through all of it. She was not a woman who acted quickly. She had learned over 6 decades that most situations resolved themselves if you gave them a moment's patience. But she had also learned to recognize the moment patience tips over into complicity. She cut her engine, swung off the bike, and walked to the counter. I've been a Nomad Riders Associate member for 20 years, she said to Price. I've been to this rally 19 times. I have never once seen a founding charter card turned away at this gate. Not once. She kept her voice level. She was not performing anger. She was stating a fact. Price started to respond. I think, Gwen said, you should call someone who knows the bylaws. 3 other riders had pulled up behind her by now. They had heard enough. One of them, a big man on a red touring bike, patches going back a decade, had already taken out his phone, not to film, to call. He did not need to. The sound that came through the gate familiar to everyone who had attended the Harwell rally more than once. The specific sound of a man who has spent 30 years being the first one to arrive and the last one to leave, whose boots on gravel announced themselves before you saw his face. Raymond Odoms, chapter president for 11 years, former road captain, former sergeant-at-arms, came through the gate entrance at a walk that was not hurried and not slow. He had been looking for his guest of honor for 40 minutes. He had sent 3 people to the parking area. He had checked the staging area and the member tent and the stage. He had not thought to check the gate because it had not occurred to him that his guest of honor would be at the gate. He stopped when he saw Marcus. Something moved across his face that was nothing like what had moved across Price's. It was the look of a man who has found something he was afraid might be gone. "Marcus," he said. "Morning, Ray," Marcus said. Raymond Odoms turned to Dylan Price with the slow deliberateness of someone who has learned to be careful with his anger, because he has a great deal of it. "This man," he said, "founded this chapter. His name is on the deed that made this rally possible. His charter number is 1-1. He did not shout. He did not need to. His card does not expire. It cannot expire. It predates the concept of expiration in this organization." He picked up the deed of incorporation from the counter and held it for a moment, looking at it, then set it gently back in front of Marcus. "Get someone from the board to the gate now." 2 board members arrived within 6 minutes. They read the founding document. They looked at Price. They looked at the riders assembled at the gate. 7 of them now, engines off, watching. One of the board members, a woman named Delia Hargrove, who had been the chapter's treasurer for 9 years, said very quietly to Price, "You're done at this gate for today. Go to the events tent and wait." Price went. Marcus folded the deed of incorporation along its old creases and put it back in his pocket. He picked up the charter card and held it for a moment between 2 fingers, looking at it with an expression Gwen would think about for a long time afterward. Not triumph, not bitterness. Something closer to the patience of a man who has lived long enough to know that most things come right eventually, and that coming right is enough. The board's formal action came that afternoon before the rally's opening ceremony. A written apology, signed by all 7 board members, was hand-delivered to Marcus in the member tent. The founding charter card, all 7 of the original ones, held by the 6 surviving founders and the estate of the 7th, was formally redesignated in an emergency bylaw amendment as permanent, unconditional, non-expiring lifetime access, with a notation that no gate coordinator, events staff member, volunteer was authorized to supersede it under any circumstance. The amendment was read aloud to the assembled membership before Marcus took the stage to open the rally. He rode through the gate on the Hargrove at 11:15 in the morning, Raymond Odoms on one side, and Delia Hargrove on the other, and the crowd that had gathered along the entrance road. 200 riders in there. People, give or take, pressed up against the rope line, made a sound that was not quite applause and not quite a cheer. It was something older than either of those things. The sound a room makes when it has seen something that mattered and wants the person at the center of it to know they were seen. Gwen Ashby stood at the rope line and watched him pass. She had her helmet under her arm, and her eyes were bright, and she was thinking about the 40 minutes Marcus must have waited at that gate before she pulled in. The 40 minutes alone before any of them got there, when he had simply stood and held his dignity in both hands and refused to put it down. She was thinking about how easy it would have been to say nothing, to stay on her bike and let it go and tell herself it wasn't her place. She had been coming to this rally Franti for 19 years. She intended to come for 19 more. She put her helmet back on, and she rode through the gate, and behind her the road stretched out flat and bright under the morning sun, and the Harwell County rally began.